In this episode, let's have a look at the JuicedLink Little Darling. First of all, what is the Little Darling? DAR stands for Distributed Audio Recorder. So this is something you can use in place of a wireless lavalier microphone system, except that it doesn't transmit wirelessly. Instead, all of the audio is recorded directly to the DAR, which is a small audio recorder. Now, there are some reasons why you'd want to use this in lieu of a wireless system in some cases, but of course there's some advantages to wireless as well. What are the advantages of this? One big advantage is that it is a lot less expensive than most high-quality wireless lavalier systems. So for $200, you get a distributed audio recorder. You have to supply your own lavalier microphone, but then you can choose any one you like. And that is a lot less expensive per channel than almost all of the quality wireless lavalier systems that I've tested. As an example, the RodeLink wireless lavalier system is $400 for a single channel. Another advantage is that in cases where you're experiencing some sort of dropouts on your wireless system, or perhaps some sort of interference, whether that be radio frequency interference or something else, and you're having trouble recording a clean audio signal, the Little Darling can actually do quite a bit better in most of those cases. It does well at rejecting RF interference. From what I could tell, I held my phone up to it, surfed around on the internet for a while, and did not get any sort of interference. I would guess that's because of its good, sturdy metal case. Now, one big disadvantage, if you want to look at it that way, is that you will have to sync your audio to your video in post. I don't see that as a huge disadvantage, but some people really hate to do that. So if you're one of those people, this may not be the best system for you, or it may be a type of thing you'd look at as a backup to your wireless system when you are experiencing issues with that. The Little Darling has a micro SD card slot, so it actually records directly on this box as opposed to sending it wirelessly. Now in this case, I'm looking at the DAR123, which is just the very basic version. It's very much just a recorder, and you hook a lavalier microphone into it. There is an upgraded version, which also has the ability to remotely start and stop the recording on other DARs, so other JuicedLink recorders as well. So that's a more expensive version that's also available. They call it the wireless version. You have to keep in mind it's not wirelessly transmitting like a wireless lavalier system typically would. It's just allowing you to remotely control the other recorders. First, the pros. I really like the casing on the DAR. It's all aluminum, so it's all metal. The connectors are very solid. It has locking connectors for both the microphone and the headphone, and it also has this very nice thumb screw for removing the plate that conceals the battery and the memory card. The DAR is also very small, so it's relatively easy to hide in most cases. In fact, it's smaller than most of the wireless systems that I've used in terms of the transmitter packs. So this is definitely on par with some of the better ones out there, and it's relatively easy to hide. It also comes with a very nice sturdy metal belt clip, so if you're going to clip it on the belt of your talent, that makes it nice and convenient. The Little Darling has fantastic battery life. One single alkaline AA battery will last 12 hours, and in my testing that's holding up. It's doing a really nice job. One feature that's also very nice is that it automatically records a safety track. So when you actually download the file onto your computer from the recorder, you'll notice that on the left-hand channel you have your normal audio that you recorded. On the right-hand channel you have the exact same thing, but at about -16 dB. So it's a very useful thing to have in case your talent suddenly gets very loud and you get clipping on the main track. You have this other channel that you can drop to that will prevent that issue. Sound quality is also good, and the noise floor tested out very nicely too. So I came in and set the gain so that my audio was peaking at about -12 dB. Then I unhooked the microphone and recorded a several second clip, and in that clip we found that the amplitude of the remaining audio, which was nothing, which means it's a measure of self-noise of the recorder, was at -80 dB. So it's very clean. Any noise that you get in terms of self-noise from the electronics is mostly going to come from your microphone. The controls on the unit are fairly unique. You can select with the buttons with your fingers, but there is a recessed button for actually stopping the recording and powering the unit on and off. So that makes it really nice because once you put it on your talent and say you're going to go for a relatively long shoot, you don't run into the risk of them accidentally bumping a power button or a record button to stop the recording or turn the unit off. I also did not experience any sort of RF interference. I held my phone right up next to the unit itself, and absolutely, after surfing the web and all sorts of things, no RF interference, which was a really nice thing as well. I think it's because of the metal case. Now, a couple of things you need to know about the unit if you are looking at actually buying one. Number one, you really need to read the manual. This one doesn't have a super intuitive way of working with it. It's a little bit different in a few different ways. One morning, you really do need to use one of the recommended micro SD cards, or if you choose to use one that is not on the list, you should probably test it extensively so that you can ensure that it won't do any sort of cutting out. One thing that's a little bit awkward, a little bit different, is that you do have to, once you download the files from the SD card, you have to format the card using a specific utility, and that's free to download online. And then after that, you have to drag a file onto the SD card so that the little darling can boot up. So if you ever got out on a shoot and you hadn't done that on the SD card already, and you don't have your computer with you, that could be a dicey situation. So you'll just have to get into the habit of doing that each time. It's a little bit different. I've never had another device where you had to do that. You also do not get time code on this. So there's no way to sync this with another clock and then later sync it up using timecode. Now, there are a few cons as well. Number one, I noticed that there was some DC offset. Is this the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. You can fix it with almost any audio editing app. However, it's a little weird. I haven't noticed that on any of the other devices that I've used within the last several years. Next, this is a 16-bit 48 kilohertz recorder. You cannot record 24-bit audio with this. I don't want to get into the debate over whether you need to record your audio to 16 or 24-bit. The reality is if you're doing a professional gig and your client requires a 24-bit audio file, you can't do it with this device. For most of the rest of us, 16-bit is going to be just fine. Again, not a showstopper issue, but one thing I noticed is when you plug the headphones in, the audio only plays back in the left channel, and then on the right-hand side is just the slate tone and things of that nature. So a little awkward. It's still usable, but it would be nice to be able to configure that and play back the audio in both channels. And then finally, there are some kind of sharp edges on this metal casing. I haven't ripped any clothing with it, but it could get a little uncomfortable and it could rip clothing. So you'll just have to be a little bit careful with it. Now, who is this device for? I think the people who are going to benefit from a device like this the most are those who need the equivalent of wireless lavaliers, and they don't have the budget to invest in lots of wireless gear. Wireless gear gets very expensive very quickly, especially anything in the kind of prosumer quality range and up. And I would say things like probably the JuicedLink and higher. JuicedLink starts at $400, so that's for a single channel. In this case, you can get a recorder for $200. So yes, you do still have to buy the lavalier microphones separately, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that. There are a lot of inexpensive lavalier microphones out there that would work great with this in the $30 price range. It could also be useful for a professional as a backup or a fallback. So there was a case a few weeks ago when I pulled out my JuicedLink, and for the first time ever, I was getting some sort of strange interference with it. Couldn't figure it out, needed to keep the shoot moving forward. This would have been a really great device in that case to have, where I could have just pulled off the transmitter pack, plugged this in, started the recording, and sort of moved on from there. So I hope you found this helpful. Go ahead and leave any questions you have down below, and if you've not already subscribed, make sure you do that. We'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk to you soon.